people who once told me that debt builds character showed up at my apartment asking for $75,000. Not for a medical emergency, not because they were losing their home, not because they had nowhere else to turn. They wanted me to pay for my younger sister's dream wedding. The same parents who refused to help me attend college. The same parents who watched me work 3 jobs while drowning in student debt and called it a valuable life lesson. Now they sat in my living room expecting a check. And somehow they believed I was the selfish one for saying no. My name is Iris, and for most of my life, I was the daughter who never caused problems. I grew up just outside Denver with my parents, Helen and Thomas, and my younger sister, Alina. From the outside, we looked like a normal family. Inside, things were different. Alina was the center of everything. She wasn't a bad person, not at first. But when one child constantly receives praise while the other receives responsibility, both children grow up differently. When I brought home straight A's, my parents smiled politely and moved on. When Alina won a small dance competition, it became a family celebration. When I fixed problems, it was expected. When Alina accomplished anything, it was extraordinary. Over time, I stopped expecting recognition and convinced myself that hard work was enough. By the time I graduated high school, I had been accepted into a cybersecurity program. I was thrilled. For the first time, I believed my future might be bigger than the small town where I grew up. I remember carrying the acceptance letter into the kitchen with shaking hands. I thought my parents would be proud. Instead, they exchanged a look. Then my mother said something that changed my life. Now that you're 18, you'll need to figure out college on your own. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. My father folded his arms and said, "We didn't get handouts. Neither should you." I asked them to co-sign a student loan. They refused. My mother claimed debt was irresponsible. My father said struggling would build character. So I struggled. I worked mornings before class. I worked nights after class. I spent weekends doing freelance work just to survive. Some months I barely had enough money for groceries. The only people who helped me were my grandparents. They co-signed my loans without hesitation. My grandfather looked at me and said something I'll never forget. "Opportunity isn't a shortcut, Iris. It's a chance." Those words carried me through some very difficult years. Eventually, I graduated, built a successful career in cybersecurity, paid off my loans, and bought my own apartment. Little by little, I created a life I was proud of. Meanwhile, Alina lived very differently. My parents paid for her car, helped with rent, and covered unexpected expenses. Whenever she stumbled, someone was there to catch her. I noticed it. Everyone noticed it, but nobody talked about it. That's how favoritism survives. It survives through silence. Years passed, and I focused on my career. Then one Tuesday evening, everything changed. My parents showed up unannounced. The moment I saw them sitting stiffly on my couch, I knew something was wrong. People only visit unexpectedly when they need something. My mother smiled nervously. "We need your help." There it was, the reason for the visit. "What kind of help?" I asked. She exchanged a glance with my father. Then she said it. "Alina's wedding." I waited. My father cleared his throat. "The costs are higher than expected." Still waiting. Then my mother finally said the number, $75,000. I honestly thought I had misheard her. 75,000. Not 7, not 10. 75. I stared at them. Neither looked embarrassed, neither looked ashamed. They looked hopeful, like this was a perfectly reasonable request. Finally I spoke. "Let me understand this. You wouldn't help me attend college, but you want me to fund a luxury wedding?" My mother immediately became defensive. "That's completely different." "How?" I asked. "This is family." I almost laughed. Family. That word only appeared when they needed something. Where was family when I was working 3 jobs? Where was family when I couldn't afford textbooks? Where was family when I spent years paying off debt they refused to help me avoid? Suddenly, family mattered. Convenient. I told them I needed time to think. That wasn't true. I already knew my answer, but I wanted to be absolutely certain. After they left, the pressure began. Phone calls, messages, relatives reaching out. Apparently, my parents had started telling everyone I was refusing to support my sister. Not one person asked for my side of the story. To them, I was simply the successful daughter refusing to help. The villain. Then a text arrived from Alina's fiancé. Please reconsider. This means a lot to her. I blocked the number immediately. That night, I barely slept. Not because I felt guilty, but because I felt angry. Not the explosive kind. The quiet kind. The kind that forms after years of being treated unfairly. 3 days later, I visited my grandparents. They listened patiently while I explained everything. When I finished, my grandfather leaned back in his chair. Do you know what your problem is? He asked. I blinked. What? You still think protecting yourself requires permission? I sat quietly. He continued, saying no isn't selfish. It's healthy. For the first time, I felt completely certain. That evening, I sent my parents a message. My answer is no. Please respect my decision. The response came almost immediately. They did not respect my decision. The following Sunday, they appeared at my apartment again. This time, they weren't asking. They were demanding. My father insisted I could afford it. My mother accused me of holding a grudge. Then came the line that pushed me over the edge. What happened to you? She asked. You used to be so sweet. I looked directly at her. I grew up. Silence filled the room. For years, I had avoided confrontation. For years, I had stayed quiet. Not anymore. I told them everything. How abandoned I felt. How unfairly they treated me. How they expected sacrifices from me they would never demand from Alina. For once, nobody interrupted. Then my mother said something incredible. We did what we thought was best. No, I replied. You did what was easiest. The room went completely silent. Then the doorbell rang. I opened it, and there stood Alina, the last person I expected to see. She looked exhausted. Not glamorous, not confident, just tired. She stepped inside and looked at our parents. Stop! My mother froze. Alina turned toward me. I heard everything. Nobody spoke. Then she said something I never expected. You're right. I honestly thought I'd misheard her. She swallowed hard. I let this wedding get out of control. My father stared at her. My mother looked shocked. Alina continued. I spent years accepting special treatment, and I never realized how much it cost you. Tears filled her eyes. For the first time in our lives, she truly saw me, not as competition, not as background noise, as her sister. I'm sorry, she whispered. The room felt strangely still. I believed her because, for the first time, there was no arrogance in her voice, no entitlement, just regret. Then she said something even more surprising. I'm scaling the wedding back. My mother immediately protested. Alina shook her head. No, I don't want a wedding built on guilt. Then she looked at me. I don't need your money. A long silence followed. Finally, she smiled. But I would like my sister there. My throat tightened unexpectedly. After everything that happened, that was all she wanted. I nodded. I'll be there. 3 weeks later, I walked Alina down the aisle. Not in a luxury resort, not beneath crystal chandeliers, in a small community center decorated with flowers and string lights. And honestly, it was beautiful. The ceremony felt real. The laughter felt genuine. For the first time in years, our family wasn't performing. We were simply being honest. A week later, my parents asked to meet. When I arrived, they looked older somehow, smaller. My mother spoke first. We were wrong. My father nodded. We should have helped you. The words didn't erase the past. Nothing could. But hearing them mattered. For years, I wanted an apology. Now I finally had one. I'm willing to move forward, I said, but things need to change. They agreed. As I walked back to my car, I felt lighter than I had in years. Not because I won, not because anyone lost, because the truth had finally been spoken. My parents learned that favoritism has consequences. Alina learned that love isn't measured by money, and I learned something even more important. The strongest word I ever said wasn't yes. It was no. Because saying no didn't destroy my family. It finally forced us to become honest with each other. And sometimes, that's the most valuable thing you can give anyone.